There's a whole lot of reasons why the People's Republic of China is a serious problem for the United States and, well, for the entire free planet. And meanwhile, members of Congress are debating multiple bills that would restrict or ban TikTok. And one must wonder, does China even care at this point? What do they care about? What are they focusing on? And how worried should we be? Let's bring in our friend Gordon Chang, his book, The Coming Collapse of China, and that can't come soon enough. Gordon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Well, I mean, at this point, we know that TikTok is damaging. We know that it's a problem. We know that it's a security risk, but it's also been ubiquitous for years now. We've got members of Congress who are starting TikTok accounts now, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and putting videos up while they're sitting in their congressional office. At this point, is the damage already done? Does it even matter which one of these TikTok bills makes its way through Congress?
The damage has been done, but that doesn't mean we have to allow it to continue. And so one way or another, we either have to ban TikTok or force a sale to an American party who controls the algorithm. China really cares about the algorithm because they use that to propagate their lines on glorifying drug use, critical race theory, amplifying Russian disinformation, all the rest of it. And we got to remember that when President Trump tried to force a sale of the app to Oracle, the deal floundered over the control of the algorithm. So that's what's critical to the Chinese.
Is it frustrating as you're watching this because so much of the attention was paid on where the data was stored and who has access to the data, the user data, and that is critically important. There wasn't much discussion of the algorithm. Clearly, the PRC, the Communist Party, they care about the algorithm for their propaganda purposes.
Yes, I mean, data is also, of course, important because China was mining data. They were surreptitiously taking non-public data of U.S. users. And remember, there's 150 million of them. And they were shipping it off to Beijing. We know from the BuzzFeed reporting of last June that TikTok was lying to the American people and to the federal government about data security. So there are multiple threats that TikTok poses. And yes, there is the Restrict bill that is working its way through Congress. A lot of people have First Amendment concerns with the bill, and those concerns are real. But the President of the United States, using the authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, probably can get TikTok out of the U.S. or at least to force a sale. A sale, by the way, would have no First Amendment concerns because ByteDance, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, has no First Amendment rights.
Yeah. If you look back at the 20th century, there are so many warning signs along the way, from the rise of fascism in Europe, from Mussolini to Hitler to Stalin, the Soviet Union. There were warning signs that the West ignored, fiddling while Rome was burning. And now we see Xi Jinping telling his parliament during an annual speech that he is preparing the nation for war. And I don't see anything coming from our Secretary of State, certainly not our president. I mean, unless this is a war against Iran or North Korea, we need to be concerned about this. So who is he preparing for war against?
Could be Taiwan, could also be Japan, the Philippines, India, or the United States. Probably and the United States, because they realize in Beijing that a war on Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines is obviously going to involve us. We have treaty obligations to defend Japan and the Philippines. So really that we're talking about war across East Asia if it occurs. And that means North Korea probably will cause a provocation or attack South Korea at the direction of Beijing. So this would be conflict across a good portion of the Eurasian landmass, because right now, of course, there's war at the other end of that big body of land.
Apparently, in recent months, Beijing has created new military readiness laws, including air raid shelters in cities directly across the strait from Taiwan. They have new national defense mobilization offices. This is a country who is preparing. Are we prepared?
No, we're not. We have a Pentagon that is barely got a pulse. They know that there is the possibility of war, but they say, well, if it comes, it's not going to come before 2027. And you have both the Air Force and the Navy trying to take platforms out of service to pay for the force of the future. If we're going to have a war with China, it's not going to be in the 2040s or the 2050s. It's going to be now. And by making our services less capable to defend our interests at this moment, I think that the Pentagon is really making war more likely because the Chinese can see this.
Gordon, in the past,
Yeah.
you've always sort of put good perspective. I guess everyone's worried about, well, China holds all our debt and therefore they control our country. And you've always put that in perspective. It's like, trust me, they're not going to call in that debt. They need us. They need Walmart. They need Apple. They need all of these countries manufacturing there. So I'm not worried about that aspect of the economic relationship. But knowing that our corporations are still funding that nation at the level that they are with all of that manufacturing, is it fair to say that whatever this war machine is that's being exercised right now in China, that we, through our consumerism in America, we're funding that war machine?
Absolutely. And it is U.S. investment dollars and U.S. trade that is giving Beijing the funds and resources to build their military, which is being configured to kill Americans. This is perhaps the greatest strategic mistake the U.S. has ever made. We made a wager that we could integrate China into the international system. It's obviously failed, but unfortunately, the current occupant of the Oval Office can't see that. And I think that really right now we have a situation which is, I don't know, it's inexplicable that we're actually funding the Chinese military.
The former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, had a trip to Asia last year. She visited the nation of Taiwan. The current Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, will be meeting with the president of Taiwan, and we're hearing that there's a real consternation in Beijing over that. They're threatening retaliation if Kevin McCarthy meets with the Taiwanese president. First of all, what will they do, or what are they claiming to do? And should Kevin McCarthy in any way be dissuaded from meeting with the president of Taiwan?
McCarthy should meet the president of Taiwan. There was reporting that he was planning to go to Taipei. Obviously, he was pressured not to. That's climbing down. And now Beijing is threatening forceful measures. At some point, we've got to say to the Chinese, we're just not going to listen to what you say. And I think McCarthy should meet President Tsai Ing-wen in Taipei, or better yet, she should go to Washington, D.C., where the president of the United States talks to her in the Oval Office, gives her a state visit, tells the Chinese, look, we're done with you on this. We've got to defend our interests, and this is our country, and we're not going to let you tell us what we can do in our own country.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Zelensky has invited Xi Jinping to visit him in Ukraine. This is after Xi just went to Moscow, of course, to meet with Putin. We've already, listen, our position on Ukraine and Russia is very clear. And anything at this point, Gordon, that we propose in terms of peace or a resolution to this war, it won't be accepted by Russia. There's no possible way it will be. Is it possible that Xi Jinping is actually outmaneuvering the United States here? And they could even propose the same thing we propose, but because it comes from him instead of us, it will be embraced and he'll look like the world peacemaker?
Well, he's outmaneuvering Biden by taking the initiative, but he is not going to propose anything that is acceptable to Ukraine, because really the United States position is that there should not be a ceasefire because that helps Russia, because we do not want to legitimize their holding of Ukrainian territory, and we don't want to do anything that solidifies their grip on that. So I don't think there will be any successful result to this, but certainly the public relations battle goes to Beijing because Biden is not fighting it.
There's going to be an aftermath to this war at some point. Is Xi Jinping positioning himself to be a part of the reconstruction effort to enrich his nation and to further his ties with Ukraine after everything we've done for that country?
Yes, because if you look back at the Iraq War, who benefited from it? That was China. And so, you go down the line. We are not very good at attaining the benefits of peace. And we have allowed and actually invited China to benefit from what we have done. And that was just terribly misguided policy, especially because China was supplying small arms to kill Americans in Iraq. And we did not impose any costs on Beijing for doing that. As
this issue continues to loom large, we are fortunate to be able to check in with Gordon Chang on a regular basis here. But you can too. Personally, you can follow him. It's Gordon G. Chang on Twitter. Really important information there. Thank you, Gordon. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight. You're watching Salem News Channel.